You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're listening to us on CBS Radio WJFK 1580 AM or visiting us at WMCLive.com for this and for any of our previous episodes. Look for WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter, and you can now stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast worldwide anytime at iTunes. The guests today are all young, feminist, and forceful. The first, as a teen, wanted to read about teen feminism but couldn't find it anywhere, so she built the blog that became nationally famous. The second, choosing the electoral politics route, already heads the youth organization of one of the two major parties. And the third, still only in her mid-20s, has already become famous in her home country, not only for her beauty and intelligence, but for starting a movement to fight violence against women there. The future seems to be in good hands. But first, we need to look inside the headlines. The headlines this week included one that said, Gloria Steinem turns 80. Yes. And I'm not going to share the private communication between myself and this loved and loving friend of almost half a century. But I am going to share a light verse occasional rhyme that I wrote for her a year or so ago on another birthday. The literature lovers among you will remember that in Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, in Act 2, Enobarbus's description of Cleopatra is quite famous. It's the one that begins, "The barge she sat in like a burnished throne," and it has the most famous lines, "Age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety." So this was a spin-off from Enobarbus' speech. For Gloria, an occasional rhyme on her birthday. The march she strides in, like a furnished room, is sometimes ragtag, but she lends it style. Purple sails? No, though prose polemical might be, but not her prose. Her banners are posters she carries, buttons she wears, and now, added to her demonstrating in the streets, endless emails, Facebook postings, even tweets. Then there are meetings that she suffers gladly, sound bites she shares, blurbs she gives, benefits she does, and speeches and campaigns and quiet offstage acts of love and puns and laughter most never know of. And oh, the calls she takes and makes until I fear we need to amputate the phone's receiver from her ear. For her own person, it beggars all description. In fact, it strains one's sense of sisterhood because she always looks so goddamn good. Age cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite anxiety. That she has not yet saved the world enough, lobbied, picketed, protested, rallied, organized, put off her writing deadlines, and fundraised enough. Yet she, sophisticated, sentimental, funny, loyal, smart, still feeds a hungry need where most she satisfies, and never the word no woman heard her speak. So as her friend of 40-plus years, I can state with proud euphoria, you are a modern wonder of the world, and happy birthday, Gloria. Now for our first guest. Julie Zeilinger is part of the Barnard College class of 2015, but she's already an old hand at feminist organizing. She is the mother of the extremely popular website for teens and young women in their early 20s called The F-Bomb. Yes, as in F as in feminism. She's also the author of a book, A Little Effed Up, Why Feminism is Not a Dirty Word, published by Seal Press in 2012. And she is about to become a member of the Women's Media Center family, and today she's with us on Women's Media Center Live. Julie, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, well, you're about to be a member of the family now. The F-bomb, your wonderful blog, is coming to Women's Media Center. But before we get into that, let's talk about F-bomb itself. You're 19, you're an undergrad at Barnard, and you're the founder and the editor of the fbomb.org. How old is it now?
It's almost 5 years old now. I started it when I was right after I was a sophomore in high school. So it's been going on for quite a while already.
Wow. And I think I know why, but say why you started it as a sort of home for teens and young adults.
Yeah, it was really born from the fact that I was looking through a lot of feminist blogs online. I sort of had my own personal feminist awakening, and I was just loving the tone and the content that I was reading on sites like Jezebel and Feministing, and was learning so much. But I really felt like there wasn't a teenage or young adult perspective represented. And these blogs would talk about issues that directly impacted us, and yet our voices weren't really being heard. So I figured what better way to address that problem than by creating a place where we can write ourselves and really get our own opinions and ideas out there.
Wow. And from that point to being named one of the 8 most influential bloggers under the age of 21 by Women's Day magazine and all the other awards that you've got is pretty amazing. I mean, you've got a new book, a book which came out in 2012 called A Little Effed Up: Why Feminism is Not a Dirty Word. I love it. You know, it's funny because I find, contrary to the myth that younger women don't care about feminism, it's just that people who say that don't know where to look, as in, hello, online. But also, younger women, it seems to me, are less afraid of the F word than a lot of women of previous generations have been. It's being used more and more, not less and less.
Yeah, and I think that can definitely be attributed to the fact that we are organizing online. And there's a lot of visibility to be had online. When I do talk with older feminists who aren't as involved in the blogosphere, or even the way that feminism manifests on social media, which is a huge movement just in the past few years.
It is.
A lot of people don't realize that this is how young women are finding feminism in this day and age. They might Google search for something completely unrelated, and then through the power of the internet, come to blogs like the F-bomb and other feminist blogs and realize that the things they're looking for, or just the things that they believe generally, really do fall under this term feminism.
That's right.
It's much easier for them to research the movement, to really understand a variety of perspectives within the movement. So I really think that can be attributed to the fact that feminism is really robustly online these days.
Well, F-bomb answered a need, clearly. So young women began finding their way to this blog and writing in, and you built an entire vast network of teens.
Yeah, it's the way the F-bomb works, actually, it's based on submissions, which is pretty unique for, I think, still any blog out there, as well as just any feminist blog. So it's a really unique setting in that it's not just this small group highly edited opinions, as great as other blogs who do that are. But it's really about transparency about what young women, any young women anywhere in the world is thinking about feminism. And I think it's a really incredible tool for the movement as well, just to see where young women completely on their own terms are at with this word and these ideas. Well,
there are more of young women on the planet than anything else. Do you know the statistic that if alien intelligent life came down to the planet, which of course it wouldn't, because it would look at this planet and say, "Oh, I'm so not going there." But if it did and wanted a typical human, it would be a 17-year-old woman in China.
Oh, wow. I actually did not know that statistic. That's really interesting.
Well, it's yours to play with. So now you're coming on to the Women's Media Center. People will still be able to find you at and the blog at fbomb.org, but they will also be able to find you under blogs at the Women's Media Centers.
Yeah.
Probably in about a month. And how did that come about?
It was really just a matter of the fact that I'm 21 today, actually. Today's my birthday, and I really want this place to remain a space for young feminists. And while I still consider myself a young feminist, it's very important to me that there continues to be a place for teenage voices, especially, and college-age women in this vast network of the feminist blogosphere. And it was really a matter of coming to the Women's Media Center, which I know is going to continue for many years and does incredibly important work, and really just joining forces to make sure that the F-bomb can be sustainable and can just really be around forever with the support of many different generations of feminists. And I'm so excited.
We're so happy to have you. You know, it's just expanding the family and bringing those young women in, and then as they age into their ancient 20s, there's other things at Women's Media Center that they move on to. So, Julie, what happens to Julie Zeilinger now when you graduate? What do you plan to do? Is there another book in the works?
Yeah, actually, I have another book coming out on April 1st, which is called College 101, A Girl's Guide to Freshman Year. And just like the title makes it sound, it's a guidebook for young women to their freshman year of college.
This is
which
great.
I'm really excited about. Yeah, there's really nothing like it out there. I mean, I was looking as a college freshman for all this advice. Like, it's a very complicated experience and one that we're not very transparent about. And I think it's a really vital time for young women in terms of leadership and just emotionally and physically and psychologically. It's a very interesting time, and I think a very important time. So it was really important to me to address that. So that's the next project coming out.
And it's so important that someone like you is addressing it, because we can be damn sure that the patriarchy is addressing it, and still and still trying to program young women into patriarchal modes.
Yes, exactly.
So to get the contrasting message that they can be sexual beings, that they can be intellectual beings, that they can be whole human beings is really...
Exactly.
And to hear it from somebody of their own makes all the difference.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just a peer telling other young women, you know, this is a time of empowerment. You don't have to let all these forces, especially this university structure, sort of dictate what your future looks like. This is really the time to grab on to these educational opportunities and to really get to know yourself and just better prepare you for the rest of your life. So I'm very excited about it.
Would you say that feminism is alive and well with teens and young women?
I really think it is, based on my own experiences with the F-bomb and just even being a current college student and having conversations with my peers. I mean, I think it is true that the term still is very stigmatized, and a lot of young women don't necessarily want to relate to the term. But nearly everyone I know, my age or even a little younger or a little older, on a very basic level agrees with the ideas of feminism and do feel very passionately about it. So I'm very optimistic about this movement. And I really do think that my generation especially is only getting more on board, if anything.
I love it. You know, Julie, back when we did the Miss America pageant protest in 1968, they told me that this women's movement thing would never get off the ground because it was only young women, which we were. You know, I mean, and unless you got older women involved and neighborhood women and housewives, it would never get off the ground. Flash forward, and the media, which the Women's Media Center is certainly trying to address, but the media has been pronouncing our untimely death every year for the last all the intervening decades, and then came up with the idea that now surely it must be dead because there weren't young women interested in feminism. It was only older women. It was not true then. It's not true now.
Absolutely not.
You know, clearly you're not alone, and you're fabulous. And I'm so glad that you're going to be part of the Women's Media Center family. It's a delight. So you have
I'm so excited.
You have to come on again, and say again the name of the book that's about to come out in April.
College 101, A Girl's Guide to Freshman Year.
Sounds fabulous. And everybody who knows somebody who is in college or about to be, you should get that book for that person. And in fact, for guys too, they need to have consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
and your previous book, which is still out, which is A Little Effed Up: Why Feminism is Not a Dirty Word, by Seal Press as the publisher from a year or so ago. Welcome not only back to Women's Media Center Live, but welcome to the Women's Media Center. As one of the founders, I couldn't be more pleased that you're now joining us.
Thank you so much, and I really look forward to this relationship. I think it's going to be amazing.
We're going to have fun, too. It's time for a short break. I'm Robin Morgan, and this is Women's Media Center Live, and we'll be back in just a moment with the woman who is the head of the largest youth-led national partisan political organization. Don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome back. Our next guest, Atima Omara, was elected the first African-American woman president of the largest youth-led national partisan political organization in the country. And what's more, she led an all-female team to victory. Welcome, Atima, to Women's Media Center Live.
Hi, how are you?
I'm quite well, and I'm very happy to have you here. You, of course, are the first African-American woman to be elected as president of the Young Democrats of America. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
And you led an all-women team, too, to seize power.
Yes.
Power, madness for power. Tell about the whole team.
Yeah, so I have 8 other officers besides myself, so it's a full board. But me and my executive vice president, she's a young woman from California who actually sits on our city council in Santa Rosa, named Erin Karlstrom. And then we have our DNC woman and DNC man. DNC woman is Monica Talmadge, and Matt Fruth is our DNC man. He's from Illinois, and Monica's from North Carolina. And we have our secretary, Sheena Deitch from Oklahoma, and our vice presidents, who are 3 guys, actually, Louis Elrod from Georgia, and Ben Yee from New York, and Ben Cohen from Kansas.
But at the very top, it's a female team with guys in support. How amazing! Yep. Was this by coincidence or carefully plotted in small, smoky rooms?
Well, I had definitely thought about it when I was thinking of assembling a team that I wanted to run with. It was very important for me, as someone who's been a champion of women's leadership, to have kind of make sure that a younger woman was also coming up after me when I was done, and giving opportunities to those women. So I was very specific in trying to identify women who had talent and potential to continue leading the organization when I moved on. So
this is so cool because it's the largest youth-led national partisan political organization in the country. Mm-hmm. And the attitude in general of mentoring today is so different from years ago when, we used to say that a woman who climbed the ladder, and of course was a token almost by definition, would balance on the ladder with one foot and use the other foot to kick in the face any woman who was climbing up behind her. And that has totally changed now, so that mentoring is an absolute given and a central part of women's gaining power, relative as it is,
Yeah, no, definitely. You could see that as interesting comments that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has kind of made throughout her entire career as DNC chair currently, and she said that just recently at the DNC meeting that, gone are the days of women kind of scraping their way to the top in politics and then kicking the ladder behind. It's imperative that we as women, make sure, and as young people, that we're pulling up the next generation behind us. So.
Well, and it's in our self-interest, just strategically as well, because we've learned that we don't want to be the rare token woman on Olympus, because you can never really get anywhere with that, and you turn into an imitation guy. And the only way things are going to really change is with a critical mass of women all the way through the system, particularly at the top. Speaking of which, in the interests of fair disclosure, and because the Women's Media Center is a nonprofit, and true fair and balanced, not Fox version thereof. We've also reached out to the Young Republicans of America, who I might add are not headed by a woman or a person of color. Everybody will now pause in shock at that. And the closest we can get to anybody who is not a pale male is a level or two down from the top leadership. And so we're going after her, and I still hope to have her on the program. Not to crucify the poor child, but to try and be fair and balanced in a real sense. But back to you. What are your druthers? What's your wish list for young Democrats under your leadership?
There were three things that I kind of was very interested in promoting when I became president. Obviously, the first and foremost was making sure that we were electing Democrats, but also by extension, doing that effectively. Also training young leaders. We have a lot of young folks who run for office in our organization. We get a lot of the still, wait your turn, pay your dues. So what we try to do is really say, if you're going to run as a young person in your community, here's how you can successfully do it, and brought to you by people who've done it successfully before. So it's like candidate training with a young twist to it, I guess.
Right.
And then also we're focusing very much on issue advocacy this year, as millennials are very much driven to politics. Certainly I was, by issues, and so specifically focusing on income inequality, LGBT rights, women's rights, in the environment, all of these sort of relevant issues that are happening and are being discussed in today's political arena.
I take it that you are going to do your damnedest to not let the party do what at times it has done before, to the wild frustration of feminists, and certainly me, selfishly speaking, which is that knowing that women tend Democratic, and knowing that choice becomes a major issue, considering that the other party has been seized by the Friends of the Fetus and a very strange small group of crazies, which is not good for either party. But knowing that, nonetheless, I think it's partly that's the human reaction that, well, women are already in our pocket. We don't have to extend ourselves then for them, because where are they going to go? And the same in terms of communities of color. So sometimes we have felt, as I'm sure you know, or maybe have felt, betrayed by the Democratic Party because they take us for granted. And it is true. We have nowhere else to go. It's a two-party system, and for better or worse, and I could argue both sides, we're stuck with it. So I take it that this go round, we're not going to make that same mistake, either in the midterm elections and certainly not in 2016. Tell me.
I definitely think with the leaders like Debbie Wasserman Schultz at the DNC, who's definitely put together and sort of champion initiatives like the DNC Women's Institute that will all specifically focus on training women for public office, as well as focusing on turning out the women's vote, that will definitely not be off the table in 2014. I mean, you just take a look at, and I'm from Virginia, and this is where I grew up. You look at this last election that elected a statewide Democratic sweep, governor all the way down in
I knew that we were in trouble in a general sense of vision when I found myself rooting for Terry McAuliffe. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting thing about that is, when you literally take the three media markets, and it was a poll that NARAL championed, it was like Richmond area where I grew up, and just a little bit more conservative in the outer suburbs of Richmond, and then you get on the Tidewater down by Norfolk and the whole Naval Base area, and, Regent University and sort of that whole area. And then you take Northern Virginia, and when women are polled across those three media markets, and they said one of the top issues for them is reproductive rights because of what was happening in the General Assembly in the last couple of years between the transvaginal ultrasound and mandatory waiting periods. I mean, you're definitely seeing a shift where even the more conservative-leaning women are like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's encouraging. That's very encouraging. And what about your future? Are you going to go on and be the Debbie Wasserman Schultz of tomorrow? I hope.
Yeah, she's one of my definitely role models in what, women can accomplish. Certainly, she ran for office when she was 26 and, ran for Congress when she was very pregnant.
That's right.
she definitely shows women that there's really nothing that can sort of hold us down, and I've sort of looked to that in others for what I want to do. And so I'm definitely keeping the door open on running for public office or serving in a higher capacity in politics. So.
Oh, this is fantastic. Well, we will look forward to seeing you run for public office and win public office, and at some point come back and interview you when you're in Congress or in the Senate or I don't know. Speaking of which, and higher office, is there any inside scuttlebutt that we are dying to know about guess who running for president?
Well, I think that it's pretty obvious to people that, Hillary Clinton is keeping her options on the table. So, we'll see what happens with that. And, I've heard of some other great women, who are thinking about it in a very serious way. If she doesn't run for it in 2016, I don't mean like that they would run if she didn't run in 2016, but that they would run, down the road.
Right.
And that's encouraging because I think that really her running in 2008 really made it more possible in people's minds for a lot of women.
It's the old, you have to see it to be it. And we saw it, and women who had never really believed it saw it. So it wasn't just crazy feminists, and it seemed very possible and plausible, and came very, very close. So yeah, that makes a difference. Although Dee Dee Myers said if she was a betting woman, she'd say yes, and everything that I hear goes in that direction too. So it bodes to be an exciting year or two. Is there any last word that you would want to give to young women today in terms of politics, electoral politics?
Yeah, I think one of the best pieces of sort of advice that I guess it was sort of like Hillary Clinton in her final speech, and she said, when you get knocked down, get right back up. And I would say that, everybody likes to quote Sheryl Sandberg and lean in. And certainly in politics, I think that, that's a very actually important thing to follow. It's sort of leaning into your potential and not stepping away when things get hard because, fighting for what you believe in in the political process is not a very easy thing to do. If it was, everybody would do it. So
Yeah.
I would definitely encourage women to step up even if they don't think they have something to say. You never know what you're capable of doing. So.
Not having something to say or wondering if you do never stopped guys from stepping up. They'll just go on and bloviate, whether they have something to say or not.
That's very true.
whereas women bursting with something to say sometimes are terminally modest and say, oh, I can't. So that's changing, and that's a very good thing. Thank you so much for being with us, and promise that you'll come back as you move up through the political ladder, or even still where you are.
Absolutely. I would love to, Robin.
Thanks so much, Atima.
All right. Thank you.
Now it's time for a brief stop in the Surrealism Corner. Folks who live in and around Washington, D.C. live in close proximity to the Surrealism Corner all the time because, of course, they're so near Congress and government functions. But this particular item especially affects the D.C. area. The D.C. Abortion Fund, which raises money so that poor women who cannot afford termination of pregnancy can get abortions, the D.C. Abortion Fund gives out silver coat hanger pendants to monthly donors, people who are regular supporters. It's a very good idea. The right wing got hold of this and went ballistic. The National Review was the post that started it, the whole thing. And then the Drudge Report tweeted it out. And then Herman Cain got hold of it. And then Bristol Palin, always a wise voice, went online saying, it used to be that we commented on people wearing their heart with a sleeve. She even got that wrong. It's the heart on a sleeve. And now people are wearing death around their necks. And more right-wing sites and commentators have been waxing ecstatic in denouncing this. They seem to think that it glamorizes abortion. They seem to think that we are celebrating a symbol of abortion, which, of course, they say is death. So let us point out to them that this isn't a symbol that celebrates nothing. This is a symbol that reminds us of how many women died from butchered back alley abortions by inserting coat hangers through their vaginas up to try and end the pregnancy. There was an epidemic of perforated uteruses. Women came in bleeding and dying to emergency rooms. This is what the symbol means. It's not glamour, and we're not celebrating it. The colleague who drew my attention to this is a more charitable soul than I, and she seems to think that although there is some willful malice at foot here, that there's also genuine, honest ignorance. If there's genuine ignorance, I don't think it's honest. I think it's willful. So maybe this has taught them, but let's not hold our breath, what the coat hanger really stands for and why it's a symbol that we do not ever intend to return to. Time for another break. I'm Robin Morgan, and this is Women's Media Center Live, and we'll be back in just a minute with a return visit by Ikumi Yoshimatsu, the feminist avenger from Japan.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome back. Next up, Ikumi Yoshimatsu returns to the program. She was our guest a while ago. You may recall she's the Japanese beauty queen who turned feminist and then took a stand against the gangster underground, the Yakuza. And before she leaves the country, before she leaves the U.S., we wanted to get her on a second time to talk about how she's expanding her campaign about violence against women to take on all of Japanese culture. Welcome back, Ikumi. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me again, Robin.
Well, because we didn't have time for the whole story last time, and it's quite a story. You are courageously continuing, even escalating, the work that you've taken on of prevention of violence against women in Japan. Last time we talked about your having confronted the Yakuza, the gangster underground, but now you've taken it more public into pressuring the government itself. Tell us about this and how it came to be that you and the First Lady of Japan are co-chairing this task force.
Okay. Since going public 3 months ago, with my personal story of attempted abduction, being stalked and intimidated by a Japanese talent agency executive who works for the top entertainment industry Yakuza boss in Japan, millions of women have felt empowered to speak up. And because of this, the media has started to cover crime against women like they never have before. For the first time, women being murdered by stalkers and forced to commit suicide is becoming front-page news. So last year, the Prime Minister Abe stood in front of the UN and said that he wants to see Japan become a country where women shine. So last April, he implemented a recommendation that I made as the youngest member of the Ministerial Population Crisis Task Force to require all public companies to include at least one woman on its board of directors.
Yay!
Yeah, and I recommended that the number be 30% women within 5 years, which is bring Japan up to par with Northern European countries. But even starting with one woman will change corporate attitudes.
Yes.
Yeah, so and now I have started the Stalker Zero campaign on change.org, which received more signatures than any previous campaign in Japan and has become a place where women are writing about their own personal experiences.
Can
And-
Ikumi, we can access, women in the West can also go to Stalker Zero.
Yes, sure.
Yes, on change.org and sign it. Good. Okay, so
Yes.
that's on change.org, listeners, and you would just do a search for Stalker-Zero campaign or for the word
Sure.
Ikumi. Go on.
Exactly.
Good. Go on.
Thank you. And I'm gathering specialists and legal professionals to author strict new law recommendation to Prime Minister Abe. And my biggest supporter is his wife, First Lady Akie Abe. She told me that when she visits other countries like the U.S., other first ladies are very active in social and political issues. But when she goes back to Japan, people criticize her for not keeping quiet and tell her just to be a good wife. I think she's the first activist wife of the Japanese Prime Minister, and maybe she's the moral compass for her husband.
The Prime Minister had previously said he was going to withdraw the public apology that was made a few years ago to the the so-called comfort women from World War II, who were women of other countries, of Korea, of the Philippines, and Japanese women who had been forced basically to serve as sexual slaves to Japanese military forces. And there was an apology made after much pressure from the global women's movement. And a while ago, Abe had said he was going to withdraw the apology for the sake of patriotism. Yes. And then just this last week, he said no, he changed his position and the apology would stand. Do we think that the First Lady maybe is an influence behind that?
Yes, I think so. And it seems that the opinion of some people in the Japanese right wing is that these women were common prostitutes.
Right.
And all 80,000 to 200,000 of them. So they are not on an apology.
That's right. Yeah.
But the testimonies of the women who survived provides them wrong. And as a Japanese, I am embarrassed and ashamed of these comments. And as a woman, I am outraged that apologizing is even an issue. So you can see we must change century of culture and unspoken disregard for the rights of women. In order to do this, bold regulations and strict new laws must slap reality into the face of injustice. So let me explain the Stalker Zero campaign plans, okay?
Good, please.
So what the Stalker Zero campaign will do is, 1, aggregate the voices of all victims of stalking and intimidation into unstoppable political power. Although mostly women, there are some men.
Good.
And 2, provide a free and immediate protection system. Connect a network to volunteer legal professionals and advisors that will help women in fear and make sure local police aggressively suppress stalkers and protect victims. And 3, create a restraining order system like the U.S. and in other countries, whereby police will have the authority to grant restraining order requests immediately. So in Japan, the tradition has always been that the man is free to do whatever he wants in his house, within his property. And police never question that. So women are afraid of what will happen to them if they go to the police.
Is anyone putting forward the actual bills yet, or is the task force still at the pressuring stage?
In the task force, we're going to discuss, and then we how can I say?
Recommend?
We make the recommendation, and that recommendation I will give the Prime Minister Abe directly.
Yes. and then he decides it. Then he moves it through a minister toward it moving toward possibly being law.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a different system than here. But it's obviously got to start on a related but different point. Because you're doing so much of this, Ikumi, I know that you've been and want to continue being an actor, but have you ever considered running for office in Japan?
Many people want me to run for office, but it's a lot easier to get something done when you have at least 53% of population of votes behind you.
You're planning an unusual is it online or syndicated or broadcast talk show? Tell us about that, and tell us when it might begin, and would Western audiences be able to see it, or is it specific for Japan and Asia?
Yes, so thank you for asking me that. I created and I'm currently shooting a TV series called Behind the Name, where I interview well-known people and explore who they are behind their public image. So I hope this show will be seen in America too. But for now, it's for Japan and China.
And when does it start, Ikumi?
This summer.
Here in the women's movement, we have the phrase, the personal is political. So tell us something about yourself. When did you first get in touch with your feminism?
My feminism started the day I was born. Exactly. My father was a track and field Olympic athlete when Japan followed the U.S. and boycotted the 1980 Olympics. So his dreams was crushed. And the second biggest disappointment in his life was when my mother gave birth to a girl, not a boy. I was raised with all the pressures of having to apologize for being a girl. And actually, I thought I was a boy. I tried to be like one. I tried everything I could to make my father proud of me. I'd even become high school track and field champion of my prefecture. But my chance to go to the nationals and represent my country like my father did ended in a photo finish loss. So I felt embarrassed and left my hometown. And then I started to study acting in university and discovered the world of competitive beauty pageants. The most difficult pageant in the world is the Miss International pageant, where intelligence is equally judged together with beauty. It's not like a bikini contest, you know? So I won the national title of Miss International Japan 2012, but no Japanese woman has ever come close to winning the world title. I gave my final speech about the role model of women in the world and became the first Japanese to win. I became a national hero. And when I returned to my hometown, they had a parade for me. It was the largest parade in the history of my hometown. And my father was proud of me because I represented my country on the world stage and won. But that also really changed my view of how things are in Japan toward women. And I became a very vocal activist. My mom is educator. She teach English in elementary school. She is typical Japanese woman. She always support my dad. She keep quiet. She never complained about my dad, whatever he did. He's like a king in the house. So you can imagine, right?
Yes, I can imagine.
And she survived the men's society in her job. So she always told me that be strong and be positive and appreciate everything. So she's a wonderful woman. I want to thank you, Robin, for helping me get the story out the U.S. media. Every single person who hears you talk about this and through voices the concern by signing my change.org petition is wiping tears from women's face and giving her hope. I will not give up this fight until we have justice, equality, and finally change the culture of silence toward crimes against women in Japan, in the corporate sector, in the courts, in the police department, and in the heart of everyone.
Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you what you're doing, and also thank you. Invite me again, Robin. Sister.
Yes, sister. It's time for another break here at Women's Media Center Live, where I am still Robin Morgan. We'll be back in just a minute with Fighting Words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome back again. And now let's see about some fighting words. This week, I'm not even angry at fighting words. This week, fighting words are simply two words. Thanks, no. Or in Swedish, tacka nej. Or in Norwegian, tack nej. Odd, you think? Quite wonderful. So here's the thing. Even in Scandinavia, where, their laws look as if a bunch of feminists got drunk on champagne and said, well, what do we want? What do you want, Mary? Oh, I don't know. What about you, Jane? And they put them all down and they made laws. And it's also rather well known, Scandinavia, for its considerable female political representation. But even there, even in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, public debate is dominated by guess who? The guys. Business conferences with a 100% male speaker lineup are quite common, and it turns out that some of these men have gotten weary of debating each other and are taking action to change it. Now, first you're going to say, well, only in Scandinavia, and that's kind of true. On the other hand, maybe it's just starting there and can spread. This is a really interesting development. In Sweden and Norway, male speakers are now refusing to participate in conferences and in panel discussions unless there's female representation. The idea is that these men, when they're invited to speak at a conference or whatever, or participate in a debate or a panel, they ask whether women are represented in the program. And if not, they turn down the invitation saying, "Thank you, no." In Sweden, the campaign with the hashtag tacka nej, that's T-A-C-K-A-N like Nancy, E-J, T-A-C-K-A-N-E-J, tacka nej. The campaign was launched in November last year by 3 men, supported by the organization Equalisters. And within days, it attracted hundreds of signatures, ranging from established media personalities to university professors to successful entrepreneurs. Fredrik Vass, co-founder of Tacka nej in Sweden, said, "It's time for us men to stand back, realizing how increased equality benefits not only justice, but actual competitive advantage for companies and organizations." And then he went on to say, "There's a lot of talk about gender equity, but we decided to do something about it." Wow. This kind of initiative can make organizers find the best and most competent persons to put on the stage or of the conference or whatever. In Norway, the campaign has the hashtag Takk Nei, that's T-A-K-K-N-E-I, T-A-K-K-N-E-I, Takk Nei, and it was launched just a week or so ago. The Norwegian list of signatories is growing fast, ranging from lawyers and CEOs to writers and politicians. In Scandinavia, 70 to 80% of all the experts in media are men. And the Norwegian initiator Benja Stig Fagerland, said that, quote, "If we continue to organize all male panels and juries, we keep reproducing the image of an expert as a man. Saying no to all male panels is an easy way to let more people contribute to a concrete change." This is really good stuff. All over the world, Fagerland says, we see strong digital networks that are challenging stereotypes and renewing the debate on gender. Makes you wonder who his mother was or who he's married to or how many daughters he has. He says that he sees the Say No campaign as part of a new international wave of activism driven by social media. Our goal, he says, is to turn Say No, thanks, into a Say Yes, please, yes to more female speakers and more diversity in debates and conferences. You know, it used to be that when men thought they were helping, either they would tell women what it is you should do, or they would grab the first copy of Ms. as it arrived in the house and devour it so they could somehow be more feminist than her. Or they would want to be very macho at demonstrations and protect the women when actually the women said, why don't you do childcare? This is good stuff. This is concrete, helpful, intelligent, supportive, amazing. So you might pass the information along to men whom you know who, if they're ever on panels or they attend conferences, would be lovely to get this started here. It's just simply thanks no. And if the websites in Norwegian and Swedish are too hard to follow and understand via my saying them out loud, if you just Google, I've discovered, if you just Google "men say thanks no Scandinavia" or some version thereof, it comes right up. Turning thanks no into yes please is a great idea, and I'm proud of Scandinavian men for coming up with it, or the Scandinavian women who said nicely to Henry, well, it wouldn't be Henry in Scandinavia, Henrik, how about this approach? Whoever thought of it, as Martha Stewart would say, it's a good thing. And that's it for this week. If you're in the environs of North Carolina, come and see me on Thursday, April 3rd, when I'll be speaking at the University of North Carolina, Asheville, at 7 p.m. in the Humanities Lecture Hall. As for today, you've been listening to us on CBS Radio WJFK 1580 AM, or you've been visiting us at WMClive.com for this one and for a whole rich archive of all our previous episodes. Be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook, Twitter, and at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton. Senior Producer, Crystal Williams Chancellor, and our founding sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan. Thank you for being with us. Join us next week when our guests will bring fresh insights to such subjects as addictions, both small and large, and how to break them. Pope Francis, the good news and the bad news, and stuff. Yes, you heard right, stuff. And Nina L. Khrushcheva will be here. She is a professor of Russian affairs and international affairs. She's a Russia and Ukraine expert, and she will tell us what's really happening and what will happen with women and Ukraine. What's more, she's the great-granddaughter of Nikita Khrushchev. So see you next week then, right here on Women's Media Center, live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio and WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.